Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Stephanie and I make videos on the topic of language learning. And in this week's video, what I want to do is take a look at ChatGPT. It's taken the world by storm ever since it was launched at the end of last year, and really quickly it's generated a lot of buzz. A lot of people are talking about it, a lot of people are using it. And so while I do think it can be great in some areas, I really did not like my experience with it when it comes to language learning. So what I do have right here is my computer in front of me, and I'm going to put up, screenshots and screen recordings, etc. I just did this kind of a quick test of ChatGPT to see what it's about and whether it can be used for language learning. And I'm just going to walk you through what I found, through what I asked it, how exactly I came to this conclusion that it's no good to learn a language. Or maybe it is, but not yet, and you shouldn't use it just yet because it's just not accurate enough and it can teach you many wrong things. So here's exactly what those things are. I'm gonna start by really quickly recapping what it is. It is a tool that's developed by OpenAI. It is an AI language bot, it's built on language models, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's very good for that. It can be great for many things, and in many industries, I think it's wonderful, generating creative ideas, getting kind of also people are using it to perform searches, to kind of have information on certain topics summarized real quick, and just like many uses in many different fields. But here's what I thought of it in language learning in particular. So I started out by asking, what are the basics of Spanish grammar? And so here's what ChatGPT is giving me back. So it's saying gender, that in Spanish all nouns have a gender, masculine, feminine, that affects the articles and adjectives as modified. All right, fair enough. But then it goes on to say, articles in Spanish. And it tells you that it has definite and indefinite articles, and just talks about el, la, and un, una, for example. So the reason I asked this was like, okay, I want to see, what it gives me. But the thing is, this is highly incomplete. So it's not wrong that there's definite and indefinite articles in Spanish, but it is wrong that, they're just in the singular, as this would assume, there's los, las, etc., like plural, and including unos, unas, etc. And there's actually lo, which is like a whole different animal. Technically, there's two types of genders in Spanish, and there's like obviously two main, definite singular articles, but lo is used in certain cases when you want to say something like, I don't know, what is important is, lo importante es, etc. So there's just like a lot of missing, not just lo, but also the plural articles. And I don't know, it's not that what they're saying is wrong, but it's just like when it's incomplete and you're learning a language, you can go away with the wrong conclusions, and you can go away with the conclusion that that is what it is and that's all there is to it. And this is very dangerous when you're learning a language. So yeah, I just don't like incomplete stuff. So next it says that adjectives in Spanish must agree in gender number with the noun they modify. Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't explain how, but this is just a summary of the main grammar points, so it's okay. I'm okay unless it's like something incomplete, like the previous statement. Then it tells you, verbs are conjugated to indicate different tenses, there's different conjugations, etc. Fine. See, that is where I have a problem with point number 5. It's like Spanish has subject pronouns, yo, tú, etc. Fine, we get that. They're listed, okay. But then there's this thing. First of all, usted, ustedes is missing, which in European Peninsular Spanish, that would be like the formal. In Latin America, not so much, but still, like a whole pronoun is missing. Also, some pronouns such as vos in certain countries of Latin America is used, and the regional differences, those are big misses. And if you even don't care about regional differences, if you're like, I just want the standard, textbook Spanish, whatever, still usted and ustedes missing is like a big point. And by the way, when I'm going through this, maybe I am forgetting about something, but this is not to illustrate, the complete and full picture. This is just to highlight how much is missing from this. So usted, ustedes is missing. Then there's also, it says that they're used to indicate the subject of a sentence. No, they are not. That is not the purpose of the subject's pronouns in Spanish. Spanish is actually a pro-drop language, which means that you don't need a subject pronoun to indicate the subject. The verb does that for you. Yo voy is like voy, I go. It's like that is what actually is going to tell you that I'm performing the action. It's not yo, it's not the subject pronoun. It's going to tell you that. That is, you know, the basic of a pro-drop language. Many Romance languages are pro-drop, you know, French famously isn't, but in Spanish, it's like you don't need a pronoun to indicate the subject of a sentence, so that's clearly wrong. It's not just incomplete or anything, it's pure wrong. And if you are a beginner in Spanish, since, you know, who would Google that but a beginner, for example, then you could walk away with certainly like a wrong impression. You know, same thing. Okay, Spanish uses preposition to indicate this and that, fine, every language does, whatever. It's like low value, that's very low value as a statement. Modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. Okay, so that's what adverbs do. Like, again, very low value. Direct and indirect object pronouns. I mean, okay, give me an example of those. Don't just like tell me that they exist. Ser and estar. Ser and estar. See, that's actually a big one. And I have a video on that. I'm gonna link it somewhere and pop it on the screen. The thing is, those are two different verbs that are translated as the verb to be, and this is just a whole bunch of oversimplification, which is fine. I guess it's summary of Spanish grammar, but what really gets me is the following. It says, ser is used to describe inherent qualities, that's true, but estar is used to describe temporary states. Wrong. That is like a very big misconception about estar, that like it's repeated, it's parodied a lot, but it's absolutely wrong, because you say, for example, está muerto, he or she is dead. Like that, there's nothing temporary about that, you know? So yeah, that's just simply wrong. It's something that's, as I said, repeated a lot, but that doesn't make it true. And then it says the last one is like negation, that you can use no to negate a sentence. Then you can also use negative words, such as nunca, nadie, to add emphasis to negation. Yeah, Spanish allows for double negatives, so that's fine. And then it obviously says there's many other rules. That's fine, fair. But I was like really shocked about the whole ser and estar thing. Obviously, you know, obviously, but the whole subject thing is like, okay, that was wrong. There's nothing I can do to make it right. But I tried to give ChatGPT a chance to redeem itself when it comes to ser and estar. So I asked, when do you use ser and estar? And it says that they are both verbs that mean to be. You know, you can see the whole text on the screen. You can pause it if you want. Here's what I want to draw your attention to in this case. So the examples of using ser, they are correct, right? That's like, it's grammatically correct, it's fine. But again, it is not, the whole temporary thing, it keeps repeating temporary. Again, it's not temporary versus non-temporary. I go into so much detail in my ser and estar video, but in general, don't think of it as being temporary or not temporary. Just think of it more as being like a characteristic versus a condition, or like a state of being, etc. Or because, you know, estado, think of it as an estado, a state of being, a state, yeah, just a state in general. Much better than to say temporary. Again, the examples of using estar actually are correct, but, you know, it doesn't mean that the whole explanation is correct or any good for that matter. Then I had a little bit of a chat with ChatGPT in Spanish just to see how good its Spanish is, and then actually, you know, please excuse my my typing. It was actually not the best because I just didn't really have like a Spanish keyboard at the time. I didn't like set it up and everything, so you know, it's not good, but it wasn't that wasn't my point. My point was simply to test the motto and like type in a chat setting, which a lot of the times you actually don't use, you know, all the inverted question marks and accent marks and those Spanish words when we're chatting in an informal setting. So that is actually quite, you know, to be expected. But yeah, I just want to see how well it speaks Spanish. Turns out it speaks Spanish pretty well and speaks a bunch of other languages, but self-admittedly, many it cannot, such as my native Bulgarian. I asked it, it couldn't speak it, it couldn't speak many others. It gave me a list of like 20 languages which it speaks. I asked about fluency level, and then, you know, the response was, it depends on context and like certain languages, and I'm still learning, etc. So that was the response of the chatbot. But then I asked, what are the basics of Bulgarian grammar, right? It cannot communicate in Bulgarian, but it's obviously like a tool which can pull from different corners of the internet. Apparently it can also do searches, etc., summarize things. That's what it did for Spanish grammar, with mistakes actually. Spanish is one of the biggest languages on the planet, and there were mistakes in the explanations. Of course, not in, I couldn't find a mistake in like the way it speaks Spanish. You know, if you could, if you know, somebody else was like paying attention to that. Again, I didn't like read it that deep, but like at the first glance, there were no Spanish mistakes. But of course, as I pointed out, there were mistakes when ChatGPT was explaining Spanish grammar. But then I asked about Bulgarian grammar, and here's what it gave me. Bulgarian is a Slavic language and has 3 genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. That's correct. By the way, the reason I'm doing this for Bulgarian is because it's a very obscure language, and I just wanted to see, you know, because for many languages we can't really find good resources, and there could be some of you that are thinking, perhaps because I have difficulty finding resources, I can talk to ChatGPT and learn that way. No, here's why. So yeah, the 3 genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Okay, that's true. Bulgarian is a complex system of cases. There's 6 cases, including, you know, I'm just not going to read the whole thing out, but it says, no, that's wrong. That is so wrong. Bulgarian is actually famous for, you know, being an exception among the Slavic languages, not having cases. It barely has some remnants, a little bit of the dative here and there, but the Bulgarian just does not have cases. Obviously, some things like articles can change in Bulgarian depending on case, but that is so limited compared to other Slavic languages in which like everything changes depending on case, like almost everything, you know, not just the articles. Well, actually, other Slavic languages don't have articles, so in Bulgarian, it's like, okay, a little bit in the article. In other Slavic languages, such as Russian, which I'm currently studying, the whole noun changes and adjectives change and everything. Bulgarian doesn't have that. It is like actually famous for not having that. So I am shocked that ChatGPT would make that mistake, because it's like a simple matter of Googling things and so pulling from the internet, and that's just weird that it would write that. Okay, so then it says Bulgarian has a complex system of conjugation, 3 verb conjugations based on endings, 3 moods, 3 tenses, 3 voices. I actually think that's true, but I'm not completely sure. I'm sorry. It's my native language, and sometimes you don't think about those things. We did study in school that there are 3 verb conjugations. I think that the moods are 3 and the voices are 3, and obviously 3 tenses, but like 3 main, past, present, and future. But within that, there's obviously different pasts, different futures. Yeah, but yeah, I think that's correct. Sorry guys, like, it's my native language again. I cannot be an expert in that. Bulgarian has a rich system of verb aspect, which conveys information about the duration, completion, or repetition of an action. Yeah, it does have like, I don't know if it's imperfective, perfective, like if they're called that, because those are things that I studied in Bulgarian, that I, you know, back in school I barely remember. You know, it's obviously when you're speaking your native language, you don't really remember its grammar points and explanation. So that kind of sounds true, I think. But then it uses a Cyrillic alphabet, 30 letters, okay. So yeah, okay, that's fine. And obviously, I think most of that is true. The thing about the cases is so wrong. So I said to ChatGPT that's actually wrong. Bulgarian barely has any cases. And so the answer was, you are correct. It acknowledged it as that I'm correct. And so it's like Bulgarian has only 3 cases, nominative, accusative, and genitive. No, no, that's wrong again. The other cases that exist in the Slavic languages have been replaced by prepositions in Bulgarian. Yeah, I think we use a lot of prepositions. That's kind of like, but it's not exactly that. And I said again wrong, and it says, I apologize for the previous mistake. Here's my correction. And it says, again, 3 persons, 3 numbers for the verbs singular, plural, and dual. We don't have a dual number. Like some languages have, I can't remember which ones right now. There's no duo in Bulgarian. You know, whenever singular versus plural, we all understand what that means, like I versus they, whatever, that's fine. But dual is a very unique language feature, which exists in very few languages nowadays and was lost in many languages. It is part of some Indo-European languages, or was, but like not anymore. As far as I remember, ancient Greek had dual. I think like several modern languages have dual as well, both Indo-European and non-Indo-European. I think actually mainly non-Indo-European. I don't know, I'm gonna have to Google that and check it out, but obviously wrong for Bulgarian. So seriously, this is like the 3rd iteration in which I try to get it to get Bulgarian grammar right, and it keeps getting it wrong. And that's just me. Maybe somebody who studied Bulgarian as a foreigner notices even more mistakes than a native speaker. It's like, verb aspect, okay, that is correct. There's verb aspect, you know, like, yes, there's that aspect to Bulgarian, which is okay. A definite and indefinite article. The indefinite articles edin, and the definite article has different forms depending on gender and number. Yeah, it also has different forms depending on case. That's it, like it's one of the very few exceptions when it comes to cases in Bulgarian. So again, incomplete information, but it's actually wrong that the indefinite article is just one. The indefinite article also varies based on gender, and Bulgarian has 3 genders. But here, listen to this. Bulgarian has 2 grammatical genders now. How fabulous. In the beginning, ChatGPT said Bulgarian has 3 grammatical genders correctly, and now we're down to 2. I'm sorry guys, it's crazy. And then it's repeating that only 3 cases, nominative, accusative, and genitive, false. You know, there's no genitive case, there's like very few remnants of accusative and dative. There's like vocative case, perhaps for some Bulgarian names. Very rare, you know, sometimes not used, you don't have to do it. For certain Bulgarian names, we can have vocative case, but that's just for names. It's like, again, I said wrong yet again, and then ChatGPT still, I mean, this is just like, I gave it many chances to correct itself. Again, it's talking about dual number. Now we're down from 3 voices to 2. You know, now we're down to 2 grammatical genders. Again, it's repeating wrongly. It's repeating wrong things about the cases, wrong things about the indefinite article, incomplete things about the definite article. I mean, what can I say? Yes, Bulgarian is a very obscure language, but you know, you cannot get everything about it wrong. This is a simple matter of opening a Wikipedia article and seeing those things correct. So that is a huge mishap. Also, you know, there were several wrong things about Spanish, which is probably one of the most studied foreign languages on earth. So there's just no excuses for Spanish. So I go and ask, what are the basics of Greek? Because I'm like, okay, let's give it another chance. We tried with Spanish, we tried with Bulgarian. Let's see Greek. It's somewhere in the middle. It's not as obscure as Bulgarian. It's not as popular as Spanish. Let's go, Greek. So it says inflected language. Nouns, adjectives, and verb change to indicate their function in the sentence. Correct. It's one of the nightmares of Greek. 3 genders, correct. 5 cases, correct. 3 verb moods, yes. Except the subjunctive mood is used for other stuff in Greek as well. It is actually, you know, the description that they gave is very common for Romance languages. In Greek, the use of the subjunctive is more complicated, so wrong. 2 voices, active and passive, 4 verb conjugations, one of which is irregular. That is weird because the regular conjugation is never considered like a separate type of conjugation, so I've never seen that in any language I've studied, so I don't think it's correct to classify that way. I'm not a linguist to know, you know, exactly how they would classify things, but I don't think anybody ever classifies like that. I've never seen anything like it. 2 aspects, 24 letters, okay. So again, mistakes with Greek as well, and not as many actually as with Bulgarian and Spanish, which is kind of strange, but it summarized kind of okay the basics of Greek, or at least of Greek grammar. I said about the basics of Greek and then just kind of gives you grammar, you know, it's normal, doesn't matter. The thing is, that's okay. So then I had a little bit of a conversation in Italian, and it actually speaks Italian, so that was okay. I wanted it to correct, again, excuse the fact that I just kind of did it in a chat form, didn't write complete sentences exactly, but yeah. So, you know, I didn't capitalize, I didn't put full stops, etc. Ignore that. That is obviously, again, something that I usually do in chat. I don't bother with things like that. But yeah, it sounds like, it looks to me like it speaks good Italian, and then I asked it to correct a mistake for me. As you can see, like, spero sei bene, which is obviously wrong because it's like we're using an indicative mood. We should be using the subjunctive in this case. The subjunctive is like the plague of the Romance languages, but it's like a very common thing that ChatGPT should be able to catch and correct. And it actually explained why it is correct, you know, that you should use this subjunctive, etc. So that was okay. That was fine. So I actually also wanted to know if it can correct a bit trickier mistakes. And I went back to Spanish, to an example that I actually heard years ago, and I thought it's a great one to test ChatGPT with. Again, Spanish, super common language, but how do you think it did? So, estoy buscando alguien que sabe inglés. That's the sentence that I gave it. Obviously, you know, punctuation error with inglés. I didn't have the keyboard. It's fine. Whatever. Just ignore that. Doesn't matter. See, what it gave me is like, estoy buscando a alguien que sabe inglés. It told me that that's correct. And it's saying that it's a bit more common to use kin instead of ke, which I don't know that that's true. I don't think it's true. Actually, I don't think you can use kin in that case. Let me know if you're a native Spanish speaker, but estoy buscando a alguien quien sabe inglés, que sabe inglés. I think it's que sabe inglés. I think that is the correct structure. That is definitely the structure that I've heard used. Am I saying that the other one is impossible? No, I don't know. I don't think it can be used. I'm not 100% sure if it can or cannot be used. Que versus quien in this case. But que is the much more common, and it's actually what it's saying, that it's más común usar, like more common to use quien instead of que. That is actually not true. Que is the more natural choice, the one I've heard used time and time again by native speakers. And so that is actually, yeah, I'm not even gonna comment on that. That is wrong, but what I wanted to catch was another mistake that I made here on purpose. Sabe inglés. So here's the thing, it didn't correct it. And it said, la forma the correct form would be estoy buscando a alguien que sabe inglés, o estoy buscando a alguien quien sabe inglés. So it gave me those two options, and I didn't even take a look at the mistake that I was like hoping it would notice. First of all, estoy buscando a alguien o a alguien. I've heard both be used by native speakers. Usually, buscar a alguien is a bit like more correct, more, you know, proper Spanish, etc. But again, that isn't what I wanted it to notice. I wanted it to notice that this is a sentence that required a subjunctive. So in this case, when you say you're looking for somebody that speaks English, if you're looking for somebody in particular, that's why I was like, this is a trickier example. I want to see what ChatGPT does. If you're looking for somebody that speaks English and you know who that person is, it's like, I'm looking for that specific person that speaks English, then it's okay to use the indicative mood, like the normal form of the verb, not the subjunctive. But if you're looking for somebody that knows English, as in just somebody, just a person that knows English, that requires the subjunctive. And that is this example again I saw years ago that is very tricky in Spanish, and that is very easy to get wrong. And that in 99% of the cases when you're using, like, I'm looking for someone who blah blah blah, you're usually someone, just the whole alguien thing, someone. That means you're looking for somebody, not a person in particular, but just a person that speaks that language. You know what I mean? You're not looking for John that speaks English and you're using somebody to describe John. You know, 99% of the times when you're saying, I'm looking for somebody who speaks English, you're not thinking of a specific person, you're just thinking, I need a person that speaks English. And so I consider this a mistake of ChatGPT because it's, yes, alguien que sabe inglés might be correct, but it's almost never correct when you're looking for someone, not somebody. It's almost always somebody that you don't have a specific name in mind, but you're just looking for somebody with those characteristics, almost always. And so almost always the correct thing would be alguien que sepa inglés, the subjunctive again of the verb saber. You know, not sabe inglés but sepa inglés. That would be the correct thing in almost any case. And so yeah, it's ChatGPT saying, like, failing to correct that, because again, we're not talking about the 1%, we're talking about 99%, and it's failing to correct that. That is a big mishap to me. So to end things, I asked it what the easiest language to learn is. It gave me the correct answer, actually, I think, because it's like, it depends on so many things, which of course is the correct answer. And then it gave, you know, which ones are considered relatively easy for English speakers based on objective reasons. I have a video on that, actually, like objective, subjective reasons, not reasons, factors, so I think that is a good answer. I asked it what comprehensible input is. It told me about crashing. So, you know, it has some good info if you want like Googleable stuff, and if you want to, you know, a quick summary of your language learning questions, language learning methods, etc. Just like a quick summary of what is out there. Fine, it did well on that. But as you can see, the languages we tested, like Spanish, Italian, Greek, Bulgarian, different languages, some very popular, some very obscure, and it just made so many mistakes. So I really don't think that you should be using ChatGPT to correct your mistakes. As you see, failed to catch Spanish mistake, to teach you the basics of a certain language. It cannot even do that for Spanish, let alone other languages, or to do anything like that. Obviously, you can chat with it. Like when I chatted with it in Spanish and in Italian, I didn't really catch any errors. But it's not gonna be able to, I don't know, I'm just afraid to chat with it in a language I don't know, because I'm like, what if it does give me errors? It's self-admittedly, like, it's sad, okay, it depends on the context, it depends on everything. And then when you point blank ask it to explain certain things, it gives you the wrong explanations. So it's dangerous to use. I don't think it's good to use for language learning. Of course, tools like that, AI tools, they're constantly improving. So maybe one day it will be much better, but I honestly don't think it's good. I think that there's many other ways when you're wondering how to see something in a certain language. For example, you're better off using Google Translate, you're better off using DeepL. DeepL, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I think it's the best translator out there. Its limitation is that there's like very few languages in it, but it's going to give you a better way. Now, actually, if you try to use my example of I'm looking for somebody who knows English, Google Translate and DeepL will both give you the correct sentence in Spanish, whereas ChatGPT couldn't give you the correct sentence in Spanish. It couldn't catch that error. So yeah, that being said, maybe in the future it'll get better. Maybe we need to use it because, of course, those tools are really helpful with language learning. For now, I think it's tricky. I think you can learn the wrong things. And that's dangerous. If you want to use it to generate marketing ideas and stuff like that, go for it. It's popular for a reason. I'm sure it has many wonderful uses. Language learning is not one of those for me. I'm not going to be using it because I'm afraid to learn the wrong things. So there's that. Those are my 2 cents. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you tried out ChatGPT. Let me know how it was, what it was like for you. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate this, and subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this. I publish every Wednesday. And yeah, until my next video, have a wonderful time. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.